So, what was fun about last week is we had a ton of people in last week. And I don't know if it was the reminder emails I started sending out again or what it was, but um, this week the reminder email went out, and it's amazing how many people are busy right now. Like
Yeah.
there's the auto replies that bounce back to our emails, and how people are doing end of year like reviews and masterminds, and some people are just taking vacation right now because they know that it's getting iffy.
Yeah.
So a good seasoned IT professional will take their vacation when they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Gotta
new
be
guy
a
says,
fun
"Oh,
thing
Christmas is coming.
sometimes.
I'll take a vacation then." Oh, you poor child. So what we were talking about today is like the classic blunders of the end of the year, the annual conversation. So for those of you not more who are not on the regular meetings here or have not attended in a while, what we have is we've been covering annual sessions. But then I realized that, we're trying to do lead gen as well. So I started an email series of the classic blunders of the annual meeting, and like what you're missing out on if you don't have a meeting templates, if you don't have meeting a kind of a framework for your year, that now everybody's kind of like, oh my gosh, I need to do my annual reviews. I need to get VCI activities going. And it
Yep.
becomes this stressor on your week or on your year. And so I decided to do a series of lead gen emails. I'm like, wait a minute, these are really good for our community as well. And while we've been covering them in the community, we really haven't been deliberate about telling you exactly what you're doing wrong. And so the first of the series that is being released to the advertising campaigns is the it's this email I have over here that I built. I spent a couple hours just writing it up because I was like, what don't people know? What is it they're really missing out on? And the first blunder is just not talking to your customers, just
Mhm.
not doing them. And the almost the worst thing to do is talking to them about the wrong items in an annual review.
Yep.
And in IT, we tend to get into the habit of just talking about technology and talking about service level agreements and talking about the new products that came out and what we did. We love flaunting what we've done. We love talking about the projects that have gone, give status updates. Now, let me make this clear to you people. Status updates are for operational meetings. They are not for annual reviews. If your customer is surprised at the state of a project in an annual review, you are doing something wrong.
Yep.
Your customer should understand the status of your projects on a day-to-day basis. Your annual review is for big picture items. And the number of annual reviews I've sat in with MSPs and sat there and watched you guys talk about how well you responded to tickets and how you did on the SAN upgrade earlier this year. And I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, and I'm watching my clients like gloss over, and they're just like, oh,
Yep.
okay, this is okay, but it doesn't really help them plan. It doesn't help them create ideas. It does not change what they're going to do. If your meeting does not change an opinion or does not add to the conversation, then you might as well have just given them a slide deck and not had the meeting at all and done both of you a favor.
Yeah. Well, let me, I have an example. Some of you may have heard this before, but it was so cut and dried classic example. I mean, you just couldn't have come up with a better textbook example in this. So this is years ago, working closely with an MSP, and we have this large bank customer. I mean, they're in our top 10. Okay. This is a good sized company. They're profitable. And the MSP that we're working with at the time has a very generous clause. I mean, they really want people working with them that want to work with them. So there's no real binding aspects of the contract. So there's a little caveat in there. It says, hey, if you want out of your contract, 30 days notice. That's it. And this end customer uh, um, elected to exercise that right. And so we just got the simple 30-day notice and said, hey, we're out. And so there's this mad scramble, inside the MSP. What happened? What's going on? Who screwed up? And so we reach out to the sales team, and they're often the officially the account managers on it, right? And so the lead account manager is going, I don't know. We sent in SmartNet quotes, and they approved those. And we were talking about changing up quantities on this other quote. It was all going great. So we reach out to the engineering team because they're the ones that become the de facto account managers sometimes. And the account manager is going, I don't know. We talked about their tickets last month. We got a regular weekly call, and we were talking about scheduling a maintenance window for next weekend. And so everyone was puzzled as to why this seemingly happy customer was canceling with us. But then it became very apparent to everyone was we were just talking operationally.
Yep.
And a competitor came in and talked to their CEO about business. And, obviously, there wasn't any, SmartNet quotes to discuss in that conversation. There wasn't tickets to discuss in that conversation. The customer CEO and the competitor got together, they talked business, and they took, they pulled the rug out from underneath us there. And so, I put that out there as a cautionary tale, but, my experience has shown me that, you guys don't have to think too hard, and you can probably apply that, at least half of that situation to some business that you've been through. So, that's my warning to you is not only are your meetings not successful when you're talking about tickets, when you're talking about project statuses, when you're not having these right annual conversations, the meetings aren't successful, and they're setting you up to lose business. I know you may have had that customer for a really, really long time, but if you aren't having these type of conversations, you are leaving the door open for someone to come in and have those conversations without you and leave you out in the cold.
Yeah. And this is where the smaller companies kind of can come in and sneak away like good business, because you're going to come in with a dynamic session in a field that this customer has never seen before. And this is why we love working with smaller MSPs. If you have less than 25 engineers in your shop, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You are agile. You are able to adapt and swing in ways that the larger MSPs cannot. And so you can walk in that door with that boutique feel, that custom feel. And you're going to take them on and say, hey, look, we have engineers, we have a fantastic staff, and we care about you. And so walking into an annual session or even a pre-sales with this attitude that you're not just going to talk to them about operations, but we're going to talk to you about business. We're going to talk to you about how are you doing in the pandemic? How can we help you further? Yep. Because without fail, every time I am in a session, an annual session, or a kickoff session when I'm doing RFPs, the vendor comes in and they have this canned, static content they slap down, and you hear me complain about it all the time, and it loses business. And as companies mature and they don't need as much operational help, they're going to kick you out the door because you're not listening to what they're doing. You're just trying to sell them more products and more services. Instead, if you were aligning with them and having a conversation in that annual meeting, then they are loyal because they feel like you understand. And to that end, I kind of want to show like, what does this look like in a, get over here. What does this look like in an annual session, given the tools that you have? Where am I? Oh my gosh. I got so many screens here.
You need a bigger monitor.
I know. I've only got 4, so let's try this.
There we go.
All right. I don't even know what screen I'm sharing here. All right, here we go. So like in your portfolio of items, you have this strategic QBR. Now, if you move over to an annual planning phase, then what you're going to find is I need to update. So the new versions of the reports are coming out. I'm just waiting for Danish to release his application update so that you get the new features. Otherwise, they're not going to make any sense. But this new 60-minute annual agenda is in there rather than the 90-minute that you currently have. So take notes here, and you can see that what I've done is, where am I talking about projects? Where am I talking about status updates? I'm not. This is a Zoom session to discover what's going on. And even in the second session, if you do one of these, you're going to just go over like, hey, here's what we discussed last session, and here's the roadmap we proposed for 2021. Now, in the new versions of MSPL, the new features are coming out. Supposedly, we can export the roadmap to ConnectWise in a seamless fashion. It's supposed to be much improved. I have not seen it yet, so I'm not promising anything. But fingers crossed. That would be amazing if I could export the project roadmap as projects into ConnectWise. That is as a very easy integration for you guys, because once that is approved, then you move on. There's no discussion here about projects or SLAs or timelines. If you discuss those things, you're failing. I think when I first started having these discussions, if you look at some of the old community updates, I say, if you talk about firewalls in an operational meeting, you're failing. In an annual meeting, if you talk about technology, you are failing.
Absolutely.
You should be talking about their business and educating yourself as much as humanly possible on the status of what they're doing, and then coming up with a roadmap based upon that. Do not talk operations in an annual session. And that is the first classic blunder. Yep. Is we talk operations in a annual session, and it's very, very, very wrong. It's just easy. Yep. It's repeatable. I can hand out this piece of paper with this checklist, and everybody knows. And even the clients don't understand that they're getting sold a bad bill of goods.
Yep.
You have this conversation over here that I'm showing you. You're going to result in higher amounts of committed projects with your client, because then they understand that you're supporting their business. So that when you tell this story after your strategic session, this you type after the meeting, then when they look at your project recommendations, they're going to feel a lot more confident.
Yeah. Now, let me say something about your agenda here. So, we've got this, and it's not overly complicated. It's something you can jump in and work with really easily. What I would say is be patient with this. So let me offer you a little tip in running through these meetings, because I see this happen too many times. You start the conversation, and the client asks a valid question, and maybe it is a little operationally focused, okay? And kind of the window of opportunity opens up for you, all right? And you want to jump in on this. And so I've got a personal example on this. It's kind of top of mind right now, but we had a strategic session with the client in July, all right? And we talked about some security stuff. One of the things that popped up that really needed a whole lot more discussion was around antivirus and mostly the management of that. But it wasn't the right meeting to have that conversation on. Even though I had the right people in the room and the influencers, I chose to say, okay, we're going to just put that on the roadmap. That was all I did. All right. Now, we've been working through several other things. This issue has come back up, and it's time to talk about it again. All right. So we're 4 months later on our path here with these clients, but we're now set up to have the conversation in the right context. We're going to talk operationally, and because I set it up in the strategic meeting, they're going to be much more receptive to it. They're going to be going, yeah, you told us about that back in July, and I've been wondering about that. Or, now I told them something, and then one of the other technical leaders in this, kind of disconnected, but, somewhat related, told them the exact same thing that I did. All right. So now when we come back and have this conversation, it's going to be much more productive but I had to hold back. I remember this when we talked about it. I remember in July, I wanted to talk so much more about this, but I had to make the executive decision, kind of to say, look, this is a strategic conversation. We're not going to jump down into the weeds here on this yet. So be patient. I know a lot of you from experience, once you get into these sessions, sometimes you struggle to get these meetings with your clients. I get it. All right. And so once you got them, you want to cover as much ground as you can. But let me caution you, the reason why you're having, one of the reasons maybe, why you're having trouble having these type of strategic meetings with your clients is because you're talking operationally. So you're in this catch-22 cycle here. All right. So stick to your agenda, be patient, stay high level, focus on the business, and then let it generate all the right conversations.
The famous story that most of you probably heard in this is the group of construction workers who are making a road in the jungle, and they're cutting down trees, they're laying pavement, they're doing a great job, and they're finding new strategies on how to lay the road better. They're finding better ways to cut down trees and pull up the roots. And then one guy goes, all right, let me climb up a tree and see what's going on and make sure that we're going in the right direction. So the guy climbs up the tree and looks over and he goes, oh crap, we're going the wrong way. We need to be heading east right now. And the construction workers down on the ground go, yeah, but we're making great time.
Yeah.
And so this is one of those conversations that you have in IT, is that so many of you MSPs are making great time. You're finding more efficient ways to close tickets, better ways to pass things off. You're finding better ways to install and drop canned solutions on your clients so that you're more efficient. And this is what the vendor market wants to sell you, is more efficient solutions. Well, you're the quarterback here, people. You are the manager of the construction team. Your operational guys are kicking ass. They're doing a great job, but you got to point them in the right direction. They can lay down and they can close tickets as efficiently as they can, and you can still lose business because you're going in the wrong direction. And so by having this annual meeting, this is you climbing the tree and saying, okay, where's this client of ours going and how are we getting them there? And I'm telling you that this is how I sell. If you put me in a room with your best client, I'm going to go through this exact agenda and I'm going to sell them on things that you've been struggling to get them to understand over the past 10 years, because now they get it. They understand how it's going to help their company. You know, that firewall you've been trying to sell them for $15,000 or $5,000. You know, when I'm in there and I'm going, well, what didn't go well during the pandemic? Well, when we transitioned home, we had a lot of dropped connections. We had a really hard time getting people in and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, I could solve that problem. It's going to cost about $5,000. I can put out the bid just to be sure. But if I can make that problem go away, are you okay with that? You say, yeah, sure. And so I will put it out to bid. I'll coordinate the efforts and I'll come back. Here's the proposal. They're going to do some work. They're going to do this and this and this, but the outcome of that project is going to be that you won't drop as often when you're at home. Now, what is the difference between what I said and the fact that you've been talking about putting in a layer 7 firewall with 100 concurrent licenses on it for the past 5 years?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two? I sold them the exact same thing. The difference is I talked to them about things they understand, their users, and how it's going to benefit them at home. And that's what the whole point of what didn't go well. I am having a conversation with them. You're shouting data and tickets at them. Yeah. And during these annual sessions, this is the one time you should be doing this, but we're in our comfort zone. It's easier to throw out all of these KPIs and these numbers and talk about things that are in our wheelhouse. And we forget that our client is playing a completely different game. Mm-hmm. And all they're seeing you as an expense. You go to the mechanic and they tell you you need to change out your carburetor, or you need to what do we talk about in the podcast? The differential. If you need to lube your differentials, swap out the fluid in there. What is a differential? I'm sure it's important, but I don't have 80 bucks right now to throw into 3 different differentials.
Can we use blinker fluid and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. And so, but instead, if they say, well, you're hauling a camper, you need to swap this out. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time here in about 8 months.
No.
Oh, yeah, I should probably dump $300 into or $240 into my differential to make sure that I don't have problems and that my family stays safe. Two different conversations getting to the same result. This is the annual meeting. This is the most important meeting you will have all year long. I know QBRs get put a lot of stress, but the annual meeting fuels your QBRs, and we'll talk about that next week. The annual meeting fuels your QBRs because it sets the tone of the relationship and it sets the confidence in what's going to be offered. So during your annual meeting, follow through on this kind of session. And this is probably the most important part of the entire meeting. And it's only 5 minutes.
Yep.
And if you don't know what a segue is, it's like, hey guys, how was last week?
Yep.
Hey, I went fishing last weekend and I completely got skunked. Or, names a positive note, something fun. Hey, how are things been going with everybody over the last, couple weeks? Or give them something tangible to talk about. Start off on a positive note, but reach into their limbic brain and talk to them about something emotional that's positive and kick up the meeting in a great way. So the rest of this, they are becoming friends with you. They're touching with you, and now you can move forward in a positive way, discussing things that really matter. And so that at the end, you end up with this roadmap of not selling firewalls, but rather the key project name, reduce the number of dropped connections from home.
That's it.
Project 2, allow for better sharing of documents between sales and production. Project 3, increase the viability of live streaming from the office. Project 4, and I am naming these. So instead, I should put this example in here, like increased viability of live streaming from the office. That's also known as increased bandwidth to above 100 megabits per second divided by 2 with take the number of users, concurrent connections, multiply it by 2, and that's the bandwidth you need. You can do your little maths and stuff, but the customer doesn't care.
Yeah.
So you can describe the technical solution down here, but notice, like, of all the lines and bullet points I have, this is in your annual report right now. Of all these bullet points, the only part where there's a technical solution, second bullet point, the rest of this is describing how it's going to help the company. And I built it that way on purpose because I'm tired of all of you talking about speeds, feeds, tickets, and KPIs.
Yeah. So let me provide a little example here. So a client we're working with, they've really bought into Monday.com. Okay, so they're focused on a solution, right? So that's maybe not real high end. That they're driving that. They've seen the features. They're making the connections between their everyday business and the features that Monday.com will do for them. All right, so that's top of mind for them. But where they're running into challenges is they desperately need integrations with Exchange or Office, all right? And where they were at was a mess, and Monday.com wasn't going to work right because they just didn't have the integrations that they needed in place. So what needed to happen was a migration from Gmail to Office 365, enable some Active Directory components, get authorization set up, redo their licensing. I mean, a lot of really boring stuff, but stuff that we can describe for ourselves pretty shortly in a project. But what I named that project, as we're managing the client on this, was get Monday.com ready to be used. All right, that was the project that we were working on. What were we doing? We were migrating from Gmail to Office 365. All right. But when we talk about it with the client, it's the prep work for Monday.com. They're bought into that. They're all on board with that. I mean, we're getting stuff done. They're interested in on, hey, how are we getting readyformoney.com, when I need to talk about mailbox sizes, they're like, okay, so I need to do this, and then that'll help me get ready for the money.com stuff. Yes. All right. So it changes the perspective of the client. I'm talking about what's really important to them, what they need to do, and that will really, really help them out. Now, I want to say something else too for and all you guys that are out there. Adam, I kind of bash you guys sometimes, but I feel like we do anyway. I take it personally because I'm the technical guy, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of lump you into some groups, and you may look at that and go, yeah, I'll do that part. I got that, Skip, right? But there's this one spot here I am having problems with. Okay. Hit us up. I mean, we'd love to dive into these reports with you. Or if you got a report you're about to launch with a client, a meeting you're getting ready, reach out to coaching@virtualc.biz and get some time with Adam and I. We'd love to sit down and talk about these. We do realize that, you guys are actually a pretty good group of guys. It's not like we have a bunch of Mr. Magoo's as our customers. You guys are really knocking some things out of the park. We're really impressed, but we understand that everybody wants to get better, and there may be one area of your business that you really want to focus on. We'd love to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably the most underutilized resource with the membership is people getting, I mean, we do our QVRs with you guys, but just that ad hoc meeting of like, hey, I could use some help. I've got a really important client coming up. Can you help me like set the tone of the conversation? It's an hour-long conversation with us. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It's included in your membership. Utilize us. Let us help you envision these things so that it's not just these weekly updates where we're giving you 20 minutes at a time, but we're actually giving you personalized advice. We treat you just like we would treat our customers. And that I want to understand where you're going. I want to understand what you're doing and how we can make you more cash. You've got a series of experts here that are willing to help you out and are ready to go. So integrate us into, your review process. Think about like, hey, I could use this like 20 minutes. Even if you get an hour session, sometimes it's only 20 minutes long. It's just a quick review and then you're done. So get that time, reach out to coaching@virtualc.biz or just email Skip or I directly and ask like, hey, do you have 15 minutes where we can talk through something? Sure. We're here for you. But this first meeting in all November, every one of these weekly sessions, we're going to talk through one thing you can do during your annual reports to generate additional revenue using simple tactics to change your conversations. This isn't about sales. This isn't about productivity. This is not about executive strategy so much. It's just about being a person, using your small to medium MSP status to be agile and to show that you are way different than the competition because you are going to listen. You care. Your customers aren't just another number to you. There's somebody you want to see succeed in spite of all of the crap that's going on in the world right now. We want you to succeed. And with that, I will, I'll let everybody go. Again, I want to show people like, look, we don't utilize this whole hour on purpose. There may be a time or two a year where we get up to the edge, but note that we talk and we make our point and we leave with you having the extra 20 minutes to 30 minutes to your day. That's the way we want you to feel. And we want your customers to feel that you do what you need to do and then you move on to what matters. So with that, I will let you guys have the last 24 minutes of this hour back. And for those of you watching online, I hope that this was edifying and I hope to see everybody next week.
See you guys.
See ya.